Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm here today to explain to you a little bit about my mom and what happened with her journey with cancer. In 2017, she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer and was living in Arizona, and I went out to see her, and I knew that she'd be coming back with me because I just had a sense that it was something serious. Moved her to California, and she became my house guest for 2 years. And it was quite the journey. So for most of the time of her time with me, she didn't want me to be in her room. She didn't want me to be fussing over her. Basically, she didn't want me to watch her die. And so I honored that, I respected it, and so this became my window into her life. This is how I would see if she was breathing, if she needed something. Even at nighttime, this was on my hip 24/7 because it became my window to know how she was doing. She was in a normal bed, but then things became very difficult with the cancer. I believe that it got into her spine, which left her at about a 90-degree angle where she couldn't walk. She was very weak and put a lot of stress on me having to carry her and move her around. And so my idea was to get the hospital bed. That was delivered. We moved her into it, and she was in that hospital bed for 4 or 5 days and realized that we needed to put her on morphine. We put her on that, and that kind of put her into what I call a morphine sleep. And so I could still see, watch, see what was going on. And of course I would be in and out of the bedroom checking on her. It was a little easier to deal with things because she was in that morphine sleep, and so it made it easier for me to be in there a little bit more and checking on her and making sure that she was still okay. About 10:45 at night, I was tired. I knew that things were getting closer. It was a tension, a balance of trying to trust God, know that He had everything in His hands, but yet realizing the reality of my mom was going to die, and I knew. And so I was feeling a bit emotional. I was feeling drained. It had been 2 years, and I was tired. And so I sat back on the couch, 10:45 at night, glanced over at the monitor, and as I looked at the monitor, the wall behind my mom's head shifted. It kind of did a twist like this. And so I came into the room, it was nighttime, and when I looked at the wall, there wasn't anything there because it was dark and the lighting was really low, and so I couldn't see anything. And so I went to bed that night and came down the next morning to see if this lion was still on the wall. And as I walked into the room, lo and behold, there was a lion on the wall. It took my breath away. And then the second thing I did was I began to cry. And I asked Jesus, "Is this you?" And I heard Him speak, "Yes, it's me, I'm here." So the lion was here, and a couple of days went by, and my mom was a poet. And so I went into my email to find a poem called "The Hallways to Heaven." I was going to read it to her, although she didn't want me in here, but I was going to do it anyway. And so I was going through my email, and I found a subject line in my email called "The Lion of Judah." So I found this poem, and the week kind of went through, and she was in further decline. I could tell that her breathing was changing. It was more labored. The morphine was definitely keeping her in a sedated place where there was no pain, which gave me peace, and I know that that was good for her as well. On a Saturday evening, I came into the room to check on her, and I was standing at her hospital bed, which was in this area here. And so I come in and I hear the Lord tell me to anoint my mom with oil. And so my mom had not spoken for a week. She couldn't. She was in that morphine sleep. There was no way that she was communicating at all. Maybe now and then a little grunt or but there was no dialogue coming from her. And so I came and I found this oil, which actually I had kept from the Azusa Street Centennial back in 2006. I never use this oil. It's something I put aside. There's only one bottle of it, and there's no way to get more. And so this was like my prized possession. And I knew that this is the oil I was supposed to use for my mom. And so I stood here, and I anointed her feet, her hands, and her head. As I was doing that, I heard her voice from over in this side of the room. She was still in her body, but I heard her clearly say to me, "I see what you're doing with my body and how you're honoring me." And so I didn't know what to think of it. It was great to hear her voice because I hadn't heard it for a week, but it was outside of her body on this side of the room. She was still breathing, still going. And so I put the oil down and I walked back into the living room to watch on the baby monitor to see what was happening. About 10-15 minutes went by and I heard her speak again. And she said to me, "Do not feel guilty or feel bad that you won't be in the room when I go. It's okay, Lisa, it's gonna be okay." I sat there for a few minutes in the living room not knowing what to do. I thought, well, do I go in? Is it time? Is it not time? There's a tension that a caregiver lives in when they're caring for a loved one, that you don't know the hour, you don't know the time that they're gonna go, and so I lived in that tension, especially towards the end. So I came back in as I was coming into the room, and I come around the corner where her bed is. My mom lifted out of her body like this, straight up. Some lift up. I've heard stories of some, they levitate. My mom, she just went like this. And all of a sudden she moved over here to this part of the room. She was very tall, so I thought, but when I looked, I noticed that she was levitating about 18 inches off the earth. She wasn't touching the earth. So here's my mom standing. She's standing this way, and I come walking into the room, and I hear her say, "I'm dealing with the cancer." My mom never dealt with the cancer. My mom was in denial. She would never even admit that she was sick. And so to hear her say this, I knew something was happening. Saw my mom here. I began to see what she could see. As I looked and saw what she was seeing, I heard her say, "I'm dealing with the cancer and I'm watching it lose its power." And I could see like little fiber optic lights lighting up in her body. It was the cancer. It was everywhere. It was in her brain, in her lungs, in her liver, in her toes. The cancer was everywhere, and these little fiber optic lights were lighting up. As I watched what she was watching, the fiber optic lights began to dim, and she said, "I'm watching it lose its power." And in that moment, I knew I was seeing what she was seeing in the spirit. It shifted, and I could no longer see what she was seeing, and so then I turned my view to her, and I looked at her for what I was seeing in this corner. She looked like she was in her 30s. Long, beautiful black hair like I had seen when I was a child. She had on a translucent hologram-looking robe, I guess is the only way I can explain it. Undescribable, the beauty that I saw. Her birthstone, she was aquamarine. I could see it coming out of her body with all of this light as she stood and watched the cancer die and lose its power in that body. And all of a sudden, she pivoted, and it wasn't like how we turn, like you have to use your feet to turn your body. She just turned this way. And with this straight, beautiful, elegant body, she looked back over her shoulder and she said, "That is not my destination. That is not where I live." And she flipped around and she went through the wall. I stood here and I didn't know what to think. I knew she was gone, so I went back in the living room and sat down. I didn't know what else to do. I thought, okay, I'm just gonna take a breath. It's happening. I felt the Lord say, "Close your eyes." And so I closed my eyes and I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I'm gonna go back over here. So I see my mom and the lion, and they're walking, and there's a wall of fog that's in front of them. My mom is the most beautiful form I've ever seen her in, looking straight ahead, and the lion. The lion is so vivid. I can see the muscles moving under his skin as he walks, and his paws, boom, boom, boom. There's another poem that I want to read about his footsteps, and I'll share that with you. I'm watching this happen like a movie. And here goes the lion, and he's walking, and all of a sudden, this lion turns and looks right at me. And he says, I can be with you and with her at the same time, Lisa. You go live your life. I'm going to roar over your life. You tell everyone I am alive, I'm real, and I want them. And then the lion went, choo, and they went through the fog. I heard the Lord say, you cannot see what's on the other side of the fog because you haven't died yet. But when your time comes, Lisa, I will come in the same way for you as I did for your mom. I opened my eyes. I came back in here because I wanted to check and make sure that she was really gone. And so when I came in and checked, she was really gone. And so as I was leaving the room, I looked up on this bookshelf because the room had become quite chaotic with oxygen machines and beds and things moving around. However, as I looked up on the bookshelf, there was this lion. This lion looks like this lion. Short mane and everything. She kept this lion next to her bed and next to her living room recliner in Arizona. And it never had so much significance to me until I saw it sitting on that bookshelf looking right at me. So this is the evidence that he's leaving. It wasn't just for my mom. It wasn't just for me, which initially that's what I thought it was. It's been a couple of months. But the Lord said, no, Lisa, it's for everyone. The end of the story is the best part. And for that, I would do it all over again. I couldn't look at this and see it without feeling the Lord telling me, share, tell people, tell everyone, I'm alive, I'm real, and I want them. And so this is why I feel compelled to do the video, because this is a miracle and it's an amazing thing. And God loves you. He loves you and He wants you, and He's roaring over your life, and here's the evidence for you to see.